Saturday morning, 60 game. March the 1st, first of the month. Here we are. Good morning to those who woke up today or waking up today. Happy birthday to those born March the 1st. My condolences to those who did not wake up today. This is your boy Doug 60 game. And I'm out here on the grind early in the morning. Headed to a town I've never been before called Grantsville, Georgia. Took a look at a dryer. Then from there I'm going to Covington, Georgia to look at another dryer. And then from there I'm going to Pendergrass to look at another dryer. So it's 3 dryers today. Then back home, my family's in. My daughter's picking up my grandkids, taking them to Durham. And then, be right back. I take my grandkids out to eat for their birthdays because they both got birthdays in the same month. One's turning 17 and one's turning 14. But that's what I got going on today. Look out. I heard the FBI in New York is in trouble. Probably the FBI division in Los Angeles is in trouble also. They failed to turn over vital information.
Also brought to you by ExpressVPN.
Vital information yesterday for the Epstein report. Seems like somebody really don't want us to know who's on that list. They're going out their way to make sure we don't know. I heard they destroyed evidence. Well, maybe we'll never know. Alright guys, let's roll.
ExpressVPN gives you a new IP address and a location you choose, so it can't be traced back to you. Because ExpressVPN encrypts it. Wife Paula manages the store. She did this shirt. You guys like it? Ukraine situation. Looking at it through a simple lens of, good guy, one guy good, one guy bad, is very, very simplistic and does not describe all of the mechanics of what's going on and what happened here. You'll see what I mean in a minute, but I want to play this first because there's so much winning. I can't get enough of these clips of Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller's the deputy chief of staff at the White House under Donald Trump. I think going on CNN and humiliating them there is a really good idea. Some people disagree. They say, stay off these crazy networks. But this is where a lot of persuadable people are. I think the biggest mistake the liberals made in the last election, Kamala Harris and others, is not going on Joe Rogan and Fox. Not that they would have convinced us, but they got smoked. Icing out Fox and others. Don't replicate this strategy. I know some of you disagree. Totally cool. This is not a monarchy. You're entitled to your own opinion. A lot of people online stay off these networks. Totally cool. I disagree. I used to do CNN all the time. I used to love to argue over there. This is Brianna Keeler, obviously not very bright. Listen to her ask a question about Doge to Stephen Miller. Get completely wrecked by an intellect 10x hers, right? And then pretend she knew the answer the whole time, which makes you wonder if she knew the answer, why did she ask the question? This is just another one of those epic own the libs moments. Check this out.
So who is in charge of Doge?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of Doge?
No, the Doge is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the executive office of the president, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the president wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles,
yes,
including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Did you? Does she not know that? So the president's running. Do you understand how stupid this is? The president appoints the director of the Secret Service, too. It doesn't mean the president is sitting in the Secret Service office over on 8th Street in headquarters on the 8th floor, sitting there making decisions. But the Secret Service, under the Department of Homeland Security, works for the president. Brianna, I'm serious. Are you this dumb or are you just playing dumb? Do you think the CEO of the Ford Motor Company, who has a technology development division, is working on, in his office, a microprocessor for their new, whatever, electric car? Do you think he's actually doing that right there? What do you mean he's not the administrator? Are these people this stupid? The answer is they're not. They're not. They're playing dumb because they're not serious people. What they're doing is they're trying to find a way to object to the Doge, Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, and government employees in the Doge, uncovering the fraud that people in the left-wing media are trying to protect. So what do? They're just inventing new arguments every day. What do you mean? The president's not the administrator of Doge? Are you this stupid? All right, moving on. Do you guys in the chat? Do you guys want me to stop playing this stuff on CNN? I got to tell you, there's no. I know we talk about edutainment, educational entertainment. There's really no educational value to this at all. I'm serious. It's only entertainment. I just get a kick out of Stephen Miller owning the libs on CNN. You want me to stop? Let me. No. Who's that? Elaine, Corn Pop, Janet. No. Okay, good. I like it too, and it's a good way to get the day started. Let's get to the serious stuff now. Time to put, as my fifth grade teacher, Miss Gilfeather, used to say, time to put your thinking caps on. Folks, I am not going to engage in simplistic reasoning with you here. The world is a very complicated place, and the margin matters. There are good guys who can do bad things. There are bad guys who can do things that may be good for us. There are mediocre guys who can do nothing, making them, in fact, bad players because they do nothing. The world is not an easy place of Captain America and the Red Skull. Kids think like that. I'm really getting sick of the left-wingers out there and even some kind of war hawks on the right when they discuss Ukraine, leaving out various factors here that are important. Yes, can we all agree on some basic facts? The Ukrainians did not deserve any of this, okay? I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that the Ukrainian people were the bad guys in this. If the Ukrainians stopped fighting, there'd be no Ukraine. Has been said many times. If Russians stopped fighting, there'd be peace. Fine. That argument is a solid and decent data-based argument to make. But suggesting here that Zelensky, the current president of Ukraine, that his hands are clean in what's been a global attack on populism and Donald Trump is ridiculous. Donald Trump knows this, folks. There's a Truth Social post he put out just minutes before we got on the air, where he's starting to ask simple questions. Thank you. Let's get this up pretty quickly. He says, hey, we spent hundreds of billions of dollars in a war that couldn't be won and never had a start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. He's talking about Zelensky. He's talking about all this money we spent, more than Europe, and the United States is getting nothing back. Why is Donald Trump so upset about this? He's talking about Zelensky not hosting elections, too. Not holding elections, excuse me. Folks, Donald Trump was impeached. Impeached from, luckily won the trial, of course. Well, it wasn't luck, it was a crap case, but because of a phone call with who? Anybody know? Zelensky. The phone call, the allegations at the time, in case you forgot, you probably didn't, was that it was a quid pro quo call that Donald Trump was calling because he wanted information about Hunter Biden in exchange for military support. The transcript, of course, was released by the Trump team. The transcript showed no such quid pro quo. It did show, in fact, Donald Trump asking Zelensky about what the Biden team was up to in Ukraine, because I believe Donald Trump, in his head, believed there were serious violations of U.S. law that could have caused a national security crisis. The Biden team had a number of suspicious business dealings with Ukrainian officials, and Trump was trying to get to the bottom of it. Zelensky knew what happened on that phone call. Why? Because he was on the phone call. But I want you to remember a little bit of history here. Zelensky could have saved the United States a lot of drama by immediately coming out and defending Donald Trump vigorously and loudly and uncovering for the American people what Joe Biden had been up to, because he knew it's his government. But he didn't. He didn't. So Donald Trump, I can almost guarantee you, who knows this, is very suspicious of Zelensky because of what he and some of the people in his government did to sweep under the rug the Joe Biden madness, which led to Donald Trump's impeachment. I'm going to serve you a little reminder here. This is a New York Post video, right? This is a hat tip New York Post. This is a recorded phone call between Joe Biden and Petro Poroshenko, who was the president of Ukraine before Zelensky from 2014 to 2019. I want you to listen about how afraid Joe Biden is, how he's lobbying Poroshenko to basically make this thing go away, and he'll sign this $1 billion IMF aid package if Poroshenko makes it go away. Now you may say, well, this was Poroshenko, not Zelensky. Folks, Zelensky knows about all of this. You think he's unaware of what his government was up to with Joe Biden before? And I want you to listen to the part where Poroshenko says clearly, well, it's a little bit of an accent, but clearly, I mean, that he doesn't have any negative information, but he'll fire the people looking into this stuff anyway to protect Joe Biden. Zelensky knows this. It's going to lead to my next story about Zelensky in a second. So, but check this out first.
Assuming that there is a new government and a new prosecutor general, I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion.
Despite of the fact that we don't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, no, it was the day before yesterday, I especially asked him to resign.
Congratulations on installing the new prosecutor general. It's going to be critical for him to work quickly to repair the damage Shokin did. And I'm a man of my word. And that now that the new prosecutor general is in place, we're ready to move forward in signing that new $1 billion loan guarantee.
Folks, I know many of you, especially the P1s, have heard this before, but you can't hear this enough. Again, hat tip New York Post. Two things happen in this phone call. Biden, again, is celebrating that a prosecutor in Ukraine looking into Biden family corruption in conjunction with Ukrainian officials, that the official got fired. The president at the time, Poroshenko, clearly says, I specifically, or he says specially, I think he meant specifically. He says, I specially asked him to resign, even though I had no evidence of corruption. You just heard it. No one disputes the authenticity of the tape. This is the famous son of a bee thing. Well, I had him fired. Son of a bee, I had him fired. The guy was looking into Biden's family, and they had him fired, despite no evidence of corruption. What does that have to do with today's story and what's got me all fired up this morning? You know, we don't cover a ton of foreign affairs on the show, but I'm telling you, man, this has me really pissed off. I've been writing about this forever. I'm telling you, the whole first chapter of my Follow the Money book is about the Ukrainian piggy bank, how people have been using this place for years, and Ukraine could clean it up if they would just clean up their own government, and they don't want to do it. Zelensky knows all of this. That is what Trump was talking about, and he didn't clear it up. This geopolitics thing is complicated. That's why this got me really riled up this morning. Daily Mail. This is from just this morning. Zelensky condemns Trump. Really? Hold on, leave that up there for a minute. Listen, man. I'm sorry, but this guy has got to be one of the worst international negotiators I have ever seen. As you saw from the Truth Social post, Donald Trump, the United States government, President Biden before, the American people have been bankrolling a significant chunk of the Ukrainian defense effort. And you're condemning our president? We picked? Zelensky condemns Trump. Ukrainian leader says the U.S. president is in a disinformation bubble. He's not in a disinformation bubble. You guys helped create it. The disinformation was he was impeached over a quid pro quo that never happened, and you knew about it. He's in a disinformation bubble, they say. Demanding $500 billion in minerals is not a serious conversation, and says Donald Trump has helped Putin. Really? How exactly has he helped Putin? He's giving you, the Ukrainian government, hundreds of billions of dollars. All he's asking is we're $30 trillion in debt. If we are going to help you stave off annihilation by the Russians with our money, that we're already in debt, then there should be some path to making this whole. So I've got an idea. You guys have rare earth minerals in Ukraine that we need. It's in sensitive territory, by the way, that this is another, you're not really hearing this angle anywhere else. The rare earth minerals are in sensitive parts of Ukraine that the Russians are going to want. This deal this is I hate the term win-win because it's so stupid and juvenile, but this is a win-win-win-win-win. We get paid back for the massive amounts of money we're spending in Ukraine. We get rare earth minerals we need here desperately because China's getting ready to shut us down. And it's on land that the Russians could and want to take over. They're not going to take it over if they're our rare earth minerals because they know they'd be toying with us. So what does Zelensky do? He, quote, condemns Trump, and he's in a disinformation bubble. You know, I am not an anti-Ukrainian war effort guy. I got an open mind on all this. I only ask this, tell me how it benefits the United States. Make a compelling case. Give me an exit ramp about what our battle plan is and what it looks like when we win, and I'm open to hearing it. But I'm telling the Ukrainian government that supports Zelensky and Zelensky himself, this is the biggest podcast out there. This is not a small operation. You're making a huge mistake. This is not the way to handle this. Donald Trump's helping Putin. Really? Are we back now to the collusion thing? And why don't you come clean about the Poroshenko tapes and all this other stuff? And finally clear up that the impeachment thing was a hoax. I told you when I opened up this show, there are a lot of people in the United States who are starting to realize, there's a couple op-eds even in the Wall Street Journal, that Donald Trump is simply saying out loud what Joe Biden was too cowardly wouldn't say out loud before, but was doing anyway. That there is no way at this point that this war is going to end with everybody being happy. It is the nature of human violence. It is sad. It is horrifying. There is no way that this ends with everybody throwing a McDonald's birthday party at the end, okay? It's not going to happen. Sorry, I was just a little fired up about that. And one more thing about the New York Post audio clip. Notice how the Ukrainian lawmaker who gave the tapes to Rudy Giuliani, instead of the press scrutinizing the tapes outside of the New York Post, which did a great job, who did they attack? Rudy Giuliani. They don't want you to know anything about Ukraine, Zelensky, the piggy bank, because a lot of them benefited from it. I'm telling you, just read the book. Just read the first. Get it from the library. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's been out forever. Please follow the money. Read the Ukraine chapter. I need you to. I need you to understand what happened there with Soros, with the FBI, the Open Societies Fund, the Aunt AC, Daria Kalaniuk, all of them. Once you understand how they all interacted, this whole thing makes sense. You'll see why Trump is so aggravated at what's going on in Ukraine. All right, I made a point to you the other day about the conservative ecosystem. I was talking about my Twitter buddy, Chicago Ray. There's others out there that I've never met. I've never even seen their faces. But the conservative ecosystem is all about helping each other out. The liberals aren't. Did remember me saying that the other day? You want to hear a Democrat, Jen Psaki of all people, confirm it? I'll play that for you coming up next. That's the difference between us and them. Some good news opening up the show. How well do you sleep at night? Peace of mind can come from knowing your family's prepared for anything. Do what I do, shop My Patriot Supply and get their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. Folks, I have one for every member of my family. Information exchange better than the left, and there's a reason for it. It's my cannibalism theory. The left is in love with power, and they see power as a zero-sum game, the left. I don't want to get too deep into this, but in other words, if Evita's show, if me and Evita were lefties, she's sitting right over there. If me and Evita were big lefties, right? The lefties see power as zero sum. So Evita's success, I would see it as taking it from me. So I wouldn't promote Evita's stuff. Like, wow, man, that'd be hard. But I never thought she'd be that successful. Maybe she's taking some people from me. Conservatives don't do that. Conservatives see this as not a zero sum game, but as additive. Like, wow, Evita's going to bring in maybe some younger listeners for me. She covers different issues. And then you know what? Maybe I promote her stuff and she takes some Bongino Army folks over on our side. It's an additive, positive externality game. I mentioned Chicago Ray. You got Insurrection Barbie. You've got all these great accounts. Maze Moore, Western Lensman. Forgive me if I'm not. Jeff Carlson. There's 1,000 people on X, I can tell you, for 10,000 who are really good. And it only does the movement good for us to cross-promote people's stuff. That's why we make such a big deal out of hat tipping people. The left don't see it that way. Watch Jen Psaki on this Jon Stewart segment here talk about exactly this. She knows it. Check this out.
Look, they're kicking progressive ass right now. And if progressives don't organize their media, their think tanks and all that, it's going to continue to happen. It's chaos.
Well, I will say, broadly speaking, what I don't consider Democrats, I'm going to say people on the left do not do that the right does very well, is support within the system each other. I'm serious. And what I mean by this is this, right?
Yeah.
Theo Vaughn appears on Joe Rogan's show, right? He promotes what Joe Rogan's doing, but they all promote all of the things each other are doing and what the elected officials, I guess, are doing too. And the left is a little bit more kind of discombobulated in terms of supporting the different entities on the left. There is not a left ecosystem that matches the right ecosystem.
Yeah, she's correct. This is one of the first things Peppermint Patty said in a long time that's actually accurate. And you guys should be very proud of yourself for this. This is kind of a celebratory moment, not meant to be some kind of educational thing. It's just meant to reward really, really good behavior, so we keep doing it, me included. This reminds me that what we do is different. We don't see the success of Western Lensman or Maze Moore as taking away from my Twitter. Keep doing it. This is how you win elections, but more importantly, listen, it's how you win over people's minds. The democratization of information. The left can't do it. They see everything as power, power, power. This takes from me, takes from me. That's why they're so miserable all the time. We're a bunch of happy warriors. Look at you guys in the chat. We got the McGroin crew. We're always trying to celebrate stuff. So thank you. All right, moving on, because I got to get to some more really substantive stuff. Folks, one of the things I pride myself on this show is debunking stupid left-wing narratives so that you have the material to go forward. And in the here's an abstract on it. For those of you who don't know, most of you do, but Eric Adams is the mayor of New York. Not a particularly big fan of the guy. I think you know that. We were cops at the same time in New York, but that's a long story. I'm the spreadsheets guy. I don't get emotional. He's been a +1 on some issues lately and negative on a whole lot of others. You get the point. Eric Adams was under investigation by the Justice Department, the United States Justice Department, obviously, for what appeared to be some acts of corruption, kind of quid pro quos while we're on the topic, right? The Justice Department thought it was a weak case and needed Eric Adams, and as the mayor of New York City, a very important guy. They need him to clean up New York City because they've got a really bad public safety situation with illegal immigration. So I'm sitting here watching this, and have you seen the liberals melt down on this? You can't do these deals and offers with the Justice Department to meet public safety ends and all this stuff like that. That never happens. And I'm like, do we have any cops in the chat or feds? You don't have to out yourselves. I get it. I understand, but we probably do. If you feel comfortable and you have an anonymous name, go right ahead. Yeah, contrary to what people say, we love anonymity. We just don't like deep staters pretending to be us, right? We love it. Cops and feds out there, you're probably laughing right now, correct? Because you know where I'm going with this? Freaking deals are cut all the time by the federal government and the Justice Department. For political reasons, too. Are you crazy? Did you miss something? So I decided to show you, Democrats, again, how crazy you are. Can't cut a deal with Eric Adams. Really? Then how come Obama was cutting deals with banks to let them off the hook for civil and criminal investigations as long as the banks did what Obama wanted? Oh, so it's cool with Obama, but it's just not cool when Trump does it. So again, you're just making it up. Here, watch yourself.
Under the terms of this settlement, America's biggest banks that were rescued by taxpayer dollars, will be required to right these wrongs. And that means more than just paying a fee. These banks will put billions of dollars towards relief for families across the nation. They'll provide refinancing for borrowers that are stuck in high interest rate mortgages. They'll reduce loans for families who owe more on their homes than they're worth. and they will deliver some measure of justice for families that have already been victims of abusive practices.
Thank you, Sarge 3776. He says retired Fed Leo, law enforcement officer. Damn right. Thank you, Sarge. Well, listen to the feds in my chat right now and the police officers. They're good guys. These are good, decent people who busted their ass, put their lives on the line, enforcing the law. Folks, this stuff happens all the time. You just listen to Obama say, hey, banks, we won't prosecute you, but here's what you're going to do. You're going to give a bunch of money to a bunch of left-wing groups out there. The left, not only did they have no problem with that, they loved it. The Justice Department Eric Adams case is far less awful than that. They don't think it's a great case to begin with, so you don't prosecute a case that they don't think is open and shut at this point, especially with such a serious outcome before an election and a primary. And second, they need something from the mayor. Make the United States safe. This happens all the time. Gosh, these arguments, can you lefties just get better at this? I gotta tell you, you're gonna almost make my show boring. It's so easy with you idiots. Nobody ever cuts deals in the federal government. Have you, guys, all right, chatsters, I need you again, folks in the chat. I can't call you chatsters. Some guy says he hates it, so I love my audience, right? Folks in the chat. There's actually a thing called a cooperation agreement in the federal government where bad guys agree to cooperate and do stuff for the Justice Department. You can look it up. It's called a cooperation agreement. There were 5K letters and all kinds. You really want to get into it back in it. Just look it up yourself. It's so easy. Now you see why the Democrat Party is committing suicide right in front of your eyes. Don't take my word for it. There was a Democrat, I believe it's CNBC's guy, Alex Karp, talking about the exact same thing. Folks, they will not get it together because they can't. Stay tuned. Last break. I got that. I got another Stephen Miller post content and then using it in your show and then sending people back to the Maze Moore account and then sending them to Western Lensman. This only works for all of us. This is how we start a movement. Change is, change can be turned around. Change can change back. Movements are different. Movements, Donald Trump has started a movement, but Donald Trump has started a movement because of the buy-in by us. We are the media now. And it's really starting to freak out people on the left who are starting to realize that their own movement are cannibalistic, they eat themselves alive, and they get lost in emotion rather than results. Check this clip out.
What I don't like about what's going on is I just view this as, well, let's watch the Democratic Party commit suicide. And like, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what you're doing.
Folks, this thing goes on. These guys that you're seeing now, this is what kind of concerns me in a way. I almost don't even put that clip up in kind of a celebratory manner. We should be, right? The Democrats are recognizing they've got a problem and they've been on the wrong side of the political argument for a long time now. I don't say that because Democrats being on the wrong side of the argument has really assisted us in winning over hearts and minds. But I'm going to warn you in advance, like there are people in the party, and not just a few now, who are starting to figure this out. However, have no fear. The lunatics are still running the asylum. Here is CNN again. I want you to watch this. This is Stephen Miller on CNN. I'm trying to show you again how they cannot get past the emotion of, we hate Elon, we hate Donald Trump. You've got people like this telling them it is popular, it is almost universally popular to clean up government waste and fraud. You're on the wrong side of it. And they're still trying to find ways to attack this effort. And Stephen Miller says, hey, listen, why aren't you guys celebrating this stuff? I don't understand. The answer is because they hate it. They're lost in emotion, not results. Watch this.
The interest payments on the debt exceed the national defense budget. The American people are exhausted and tired of watching their tax dollars be corruptly spent, abused, wasted, and in every sense robbed and stolen from them. This president, for the first time in history, is committed to restoring accountability at every level of the federal government. You may assert there's no waste in the Pentagon. You may assert there's no waste in
Stephen,
Treasury.
I'm not
You may assert there's no waste in HHS.
Stephen, I don't think anyone...
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts, the reforms that are being instituted? Every day that no action is taken, the entire salaries of American workers that are taxed disappear forever.
Stephen, let's calm down.
This is
we're not having a debate.
There's no reason
about whether there are places.
You are clearly trying to debate me, and I will be as excited as I want to be about the fact that we are saving Americans billions of dollars, that we are ending the theft and waste and grift and corruption, that we are stopping American taxpayer dollars from subsidizing a rogue federal bureaucracy that has been relentlessly weaponized against the American people.
Okay,
you
Stephen,
may not care about this issue.
Talking about
your colleagues may not care about this issue, but we care about this issue. The American people care about this issue.
They also care about privacy.
And the American public overwhelmingly supports what President Trump is doing.
Folks, this is the Dan Bongino show your ass theory of liberal media people. I want you to understand, whether it's the opening segment there with Breonna Keeler or this one on CNN. CNN and MSNBC are not acting logically with reason or using rationality. They simply hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump teams up with Elon, therefore by proxy they hate Elon. They're not acting rationally. Don't ask me why are they doing this. It's popular to cut government waste. They're going to destroy their party. I just played for you the Democrats saying they're destroying their party. There's going to be a couple of people in the party, like this guy before I played, saying they're committing suicide, who are going to see what's going on. But it's going to take a long time. That's why I'm telling you, we're in the golden age. We have about 2 years to really fix this government before the Democrats get over the emotions if we hate these guys. Every single argument they're making is ridiculous. Breonna Keeler or whatever those. I want to clean up government waste and fix it. Okay, we're cleaning up government waste. Why aren't you celebrating this? Because we really hate Elon? Here's part 2 of this. Well, I want you to notice something here. She pulls this little trick here. She drops a huge L on this argument about IRS privacy and government employees. That, are they peeking in on your information? She drops a huge L on it on the first part. So she switches it to a privacy argument. Privacy argument? The left wing didn't care about privacy when Lois Lerner and the IRS were hauled up in front of Congress for using your IRS data to target the Tea Party. The left defended it to the death. Everything they tell you is crap, just like the DOJ argument. The DOJ never cuts deals with Eric Adams. I just played for you Obama cutting the deal. But watch her change the argument to a privacy argument when she gets smoked on the open here. Check this out.
Will Doge employees be able to access individual taxpayer ID numbers and social security numbers?
No. But also, keep in mind, you keep
Will they
talking
be able
about
to
Doge
access
employees.
taxpayer bank account information?
They will not be able to access anything that any other appropriately authorized federal employee could access. When you keep talking about, quote, Doge employees, you're just talking about federal workers. You're just literally talking about federal workers.
You see how she tries to switch the argument? So now she's not concerned about waste anymore. She loses the waste argument. So now she goes to, it's all about privacy and IRS data. We're really concerned about that. Really? Because when there was a massive scandal not that long ago where the Obama IRS was targeting and had to publicly apologize for targeting conservatives and Tea Party people by accessing their data, and by the way, corrupting data and deleting IRS emails about what they did, the left defended this to the death. They'll defend it to this day. These people are liars and frauds. It is your job, the democratization of information, to spread this stuff around the conservative ecosystem. I want you to watch this Fox segment about Lois Lerner, who was running the IRS at the time when they were exchanging emails about how to target conservatives. The emails disappeared. I want you to notice how she pleads the fifth. They were so interested in information on the left that they celebrated her pleading the fifth and not telling you anything. Check this out.
Top Republicans are asking the DOJ to take a fresh look at evidence against Lois Lerner, the former IRS employee accused in 2013 of targeting Tea Party groups over their political views. Lerner called to testify to Congress, but pleaded the fifth.
Have not done anything wrong. I have not broken any laws. One of the basic functions of the Fifth Amendment is to protect innocent individuals, and that is the protection I'm invoking today.
In 2015, President Obama's DOJ refusing to file criminal charges. Then, Lerner resigned.
Notice what she does there, too. She first tells you how she's innocent and then says, oh, and I plead the Fifth. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to invoke the Fifth Amendment, but I'm going to say something first. Where were all the left-wingers back then talking about, well, listen, these are government employees accessing our data, using our data to target us politically? Well, the answer is they weren't there because they're full of shit, that's why. Nothing they're telling you is true. They don't care about privacy. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you how corrupted this system is. This is a federal judge. He's on with a host of this show here, and this federal judge is asked about Lois Lerner. I want you to watch or listen to, in about a minute here, the hoops this guy jumps through to try and defend the IRS deleting emails, corrupting your data. What they accuse Doge of doing, they did themselves. What did Tucker always say? Whatever the left accuses you of doing, they're doing. I want you to watch this judge. His name may sound familiar, Reinhardt, right? Jump through hoops to defend deleting emails. Meanwhile, nothing's even happened with the Doge selling your data or corrupting your data or anything, and they've already jumped through hoops to convict them that they're guilty. Check this out.
Someone in the administration admits that the destruction of 2 years of emails from Lois Lerner is fishy. To you, does this pass the smell test?
Yeah, unfortunately, having been in government a long time, the fact that, well, let me put it this way, incompetence doesn't necessarily lead to criminality. So
which out of those two scenarios right there seems more likely to you at this point?
Within the IRS, probably incompetence. The IRS has one of the most antiquated computer systems in the world. And the fact that emails could have disappeared without Ms. Lerner knowing about it or Ms. Lerner being involved is entirely credible to me. And that, I'm sure, will be her explanation, is that she was a very high-level person in the department. When the subpoena came in from Congress, it was delegated down to people who did this for a living. They were instructed to find everything. Information came back up to her that said, this is what we have. She reported what she was told, and it turns out not to be true. But that's not a crime. If she didn't know it wasn't true, that's not a crime. And that's going to probably be where her defense lies.
And one of the problems with that might be the fact that there have been some new emails surfacing that Lerner apparently warned some of her colleagues about that. Maybe you've seen those emails. Would that, and we have one on the screen here, I was cautioning folks about emails and how we had several occasions where Congress has asked for emails. Now, was this getting back to what you were mentioning at the very onset of this interview, where you have, maybe this is a smoking gun that proves there was some sort of conspiracy here?
Possibly. It depends, again, how one reads that email. It could be read one way to say that destroy what we already have, which would, of course, be criminal, or it could be construed to say, going forward, recognize that Congress may ask for our emails, so be careful what you put in writing. Because I think at the end of the day, what originally happened here is probably not a crime. And to the extent there's concerns about the non-production of the emails, I think she has enough insulation between her and those production issues that, barring some other real smoking gun, I don't see it.
They never see it because they don't want to see it. Yet with the Doge, you get the lens, the distorted lens with the Doge. When it comes to shrinking government, they see corruption everywhere. It's like The Sixth Sense, that movie. Actually, that people, right? They see it everywhere. They don't have any actual evidence. Breonna Keeler, CNN, none of them. Rachel Maddow, they have no evidence of any corruption at all, but they see it. But yet when corruption's in front of your face, the IRS actually apologized for targeting the Tea Party, deleted emails, and used your data to target you. They don't see it anywhere. I've never seen a clearer example of the schemes and scams the left pulls in the messaging wars than this. The Doge versus Lois Lerner in the IRS. Tim Burchett, great congressman from Tennessee, he was on CNN yesterday. This was a great hit. He's talking about exactly this again. This whole IRS argument that the Doge is somehow sneaking around your tax returns. Folks, tax returns, I mean, they have already, the tax returns were leaked. You had Donald Trump's tax returns leaked. The IRS has we had the guy who was just convicted of stealing all this data. OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, as data has been stolen by the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, the government employees have a near 10, 20-year history now, not all, but sadly some, of leaking or engaging in shady data practices that have led to the government getting hacked and information stolen. Elon's companies don't have any history of that. So I'll take his guys, sign them up for the government job, say, use your expertise to clean this up. Here's Burchett on CNN. Yeah, hey, this is a canard, this whole thing. Check this out, you'll see what I mean.
What information do you actually have on what Doge is doing with that data? What are your questions? What do you want to know? Certainly, as a member of the oversight, you have some questions.
Well, first of all, Elon Musk, when he owned PayPal, they've never had a breach of security. IRS is a nightmare, ma'am. You have folks that still haven't gone back to work 3 or 4 years after COVID. As a United States congressman, I can write a letter of concern over a constituent of mine having a problem with the IRS, and it takes up to 6 months for me to get a response.
Look, I'm not saying there's no problems with government agencies or the IRS.
Hold on. You asked me a question.
But you're not answering it.
The IRS the IRS has hundreds of different groups that have access to this stuff, and yet no one's complained about that.
Here's another host on the same as that Pamela Brown. I don't even know. It doesn't even matter. They all blend in at some point. Well, they all spout the same stupid talking points. She asks him a question about the IRS inefficiencies, the Doge, and access. He's answering the question about how inefficient data exchange is with the IRS, that he can't even get answers for constituents. And her response is, well, I'm not saying there's no problem. Yes, you are saying you don't want to hear about the problems. He's telling you the problems and you're ignoring it. Folks, we are the media now. Remember that Jen Psaki clip? That's a keeper. It's maybe one of the only true things she's ever said. We are the media now because we share, because we're not mercenary and we're not selfish. The show's not about Dan Bongino. I've said it 1,000 times and I back it up by action. We cite stuff, we hat tip people, because it is my job to be an activist first and a host second. It's no good to have a conservative show with a country that's been taken over by a bunch of communists. Can we all agree? And thankfully, the Mark Levins of the world, Hannity and the other friends might see it the same way. I got my start with people like that, Glenn Beck, all of them. They helped me out when I needed. We are different. And I need you now, too. Because I need you to, again, debunk some more leftist crap out there right now as they try to eviscerate the Trump administration. Folks, President Trump and Secretary Duffy have been working overnight, ridiculously long hours, I know this for a fact, to try to fix the train wreck pothole Mayor Pete, this life loser left behind at the Department of Transportation. Folks, it is a train wreck. Our infrastructure's falling apart. The interstate highway system's a mess. Our airports are from the freaking Flintstones. The FAA air traffic control system is something out of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. No one even knows what the hell, if it even works anymore. We've got staffing issues. You had DEI infecting the whole place. It's a train wreck. The secretary's been in there, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Hey, I'll add a few weeks for him. Say he's been in there 6 weeks. The place is a mess. It's going to take a while to clean up. So, of course, leave it up to the lefties to double down on an air traffic accident that happened in Canada that has nothing to do with the United States, FAA, Secretary Duffy or Trump. Leave it up to them to try and put the blood on Donald Trump's hands, because this is what they do. Here, listen to Dana Bash on CNN. They can't stop, folks. They can't. Check this out.
This is happening against the backdrop of massive cuts across the federal government, including at the FAA. Just going to put some up on the screen. Hundreds of FAA employees have been laid off as part of Elon Musk going through all the federal agencies. And then beyond the FAA, we have 10% of the CDC workforce, 3,400 at the U.S. Forest Service, 2,200 at the Interior Department, 2,000 at the Department of Energy, 1,000 at the VA.
Okay, so what do we do on this show? We do facts. It's really crazy. What is that? We do facts. So Dana Bash, of course, total life loser, on her show is eager to pin a deadly, tragic accident on the new secretary and the president of the United States. Of course, there's no actual evidence, just like they don't have evidence of anything we've showed you during the show. Matter of fact, we have counter evidence because we produce receipts. She puts up a chart showing that, about 10,000 people have been let go from the government, and she notes FAA people too. Now, notice what she leaves out. It's a lie by omission. That none of those people are actually air traffic controllers. And the accident was in Toronto, which last time I checked was in Canada, which is not yet the 51st state. They are a separate country, okay? I mean, I'm not great at geography, but I'm pretty sure it's right north of us. It doesn't matter. Oh, thank you. There's a try. Hundreds of FAA employees. None of them were safety people either. None of them. So I just thought, like, you know, facts kind of matter here. So she's talking about like 10,000 people. How many people work in the federal government? So, Michael, I did this crazy thing. You know what I put in the search engine? What do you think question I put in there? How did you know that? This guy's so smart. He's like a math major. I actually put in the search engine, how many people work for the federal government? It's crazy. A website called USA Facts. How many people work for the federal government? Around 3 million. So the federal government is so sensitive to personnel exchange. By the way, more people resign every year than was up on Dana Bash's chart. The federal government is so sensitive and fragile that out of a bloated 3 million person workforce, when 10,000 people go and 100 or so people who are new and weren't even safety people, the whole government's going to collapse? Wow. It's good to know. I'm not sure you're making the argument you think you are. But leave it to left-wing lunatics to engage in meltdowns, ridiculous anti-Trump hyperbole. You want to see the show your ass theory in action, where Dana Bash has to say something dumb, making this ridiculous, alluding to the fact that, oh, these layoffs may have had something to do with a plane crash in Canada, which only a moron would believe. So what the show your ass theory is, other liberals have to say something even crazier to get attention. Here is Brian Tyler Cohen. I've never seen this guy's show, but we're going to make him famous now. Here's Brian Tyler Cohen just having a meltdown. He needs to see a psychotherapist. Again, trying to blame this on Donald Trump. Of course, Mayor Pete and them have nothing to do with it, despite having been in charge for the last 4 years. Check this out.
The reality is that Trump ran through a bunch of unqualified nominees to lead departments that they were incapable of leading, and this is what happens as a result. This right here is the consequence. Donald Trump owns all of this. Elon Musk owns all of this. And all of these spineless Republican senators who greenlit Sean Duffy own all of this. These people are such fucking cowards that they felt it was more important to kowtow to Daddy Trump than actually take their advice and consent rules seriously. And now, we can barely go a day without a plane crashing somewhere in this country.
Folks, this is why that guy Alex Karp, that CNBC segment I showed in the beginning, who says, hey, I'm a Democrat, but this party's committing suicide. It is the show your ass theory in action. They don't care what they're saying is ridiculous. Secretary Duffy and Donald Trump have nothing to do with a plane crash in Canada, okay? That looks like it could have been potentially error, or they have nothing to do with it. It doesn't matter. You have to say increasingly crazier things to get attention. Like this one, too. Here's Jen Rubin, commentator at the Washington Post, or when she resigned, I don't even know. You want to talk about someone who constantly has to one-up the crazy? I want you to listen to her and George Conway, that's a whole other story, on a panel talking about how Trump voters, implying that you ladies and gentlemen out there, that you can't even read. You doubt me? Listen yourself. Check this out.
Why would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so lamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader.
Notice everybody in the audience laughs too. They think it's hilarious. No one corrects her and says, hey, Jen, we just lost in a landslide every single swing state, despite not having the media, academia, the sports world, CEOs, boards. We have none of it. We have off the left, the MAGA crowd has none of it. And we just lost. Maybe it's us. Nobody think it's hilarious. This is the show your ass theory in action. They will keep doing this. It's the only way to get attention, is to say increasingly crazy stuff. They can't stop, and they won't. That's why we have 2 years. It's time to move and move fast. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Please help support us over at Rumble. We deeply appreciate it. Chris, I'm going to go into at length today Joe Biden's, I promised you yesterday, what he's doing out the door to burn the country to the freaking ground. I'm telling you, if you're interested in the fall of the Roman Empire, like I am, fitting every conservative male stereotype, which is okay. If you're interested, study Commodus, Caligula, and Nero, and you get Joe Biden. Take the worst of Commodus, the worst of Nero, and the worst impulses of Caligula, and you have Joe Biden. He is like the negative super friends. He's like one of these guys. Every single thing that could go wrong, you have in Joe Biden. So he gives a speech going out the door. I'm only going to play about 25 seconds of it, but I found this part to be both tragic and, again, sadly comical at the same time. Joe Biden and the Democrats who loved Silicon Valley when they were all Democrat donors and censoring conservatives, they loved them. They gave these guys a free pass to do whatever they want. Now that Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and Bezos are engaged in this road to Damascus conversion, Elon not so much, but Zuckerberg and Bezos and others, or at least pretending to be. We don't know what's going to happen in the long run, right? We'll have to see. Let's see what they do. Now, all of a sudden, Joe Biden hates the, quote, tech industrial complex, and he's concerned about money in politics. He just gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to George Soros. And he's concerned about money in politics. And you believe this tool? Check this out.
You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well.
Folks, is this guy for real? These guys were in bed having relations with tech companies as long as they made sure you didn't tell people masks didn't work for COVID, which they didn't work. It was like a condom that never failed in spreading an STD, the mask. The thing never worked. Everyone who wore a mask got COVID. But if you told the truth about it, they censored you and they loved it. Now all of a sudden, Zuckerberg, we haven't even seen, the long-term effects of these alleged changes yet. Now you've got all these Google people who just aren't kissing the left's ass, and now they're concerned about the tech industrial complex. You know what? You can take that and shove it up your... really. Nobody believes you. You guys are ridiculous. You're a laughing stock. It's why you got your asses kicked in the last election. Stop the insanity, please. All right, moving on. That whole speech last night was a joke. Nobody watched it. I mean, for a presidential departure speech, you would think most of America would care at least what he has to say. I've heard nobody talking about this at all, except people who are really knee-deep in politics. It was an embarrassing, humiliating speech celebrating easily the worst presidency in modern American history, the disgraceful, corrupt, sociopathic Joe Biden. Folks, we don't do a lot of foreign policy on this show, but there's going to be a lot of interest in this topic. Now, I'm going to say in advance, as I've said often, ladies and gentlemen, I am as serious as a stroke about this. A ceasefire deal, and he was making sure basically Hamas got everything they want. We would have gotten a 10 times better deal if they just would have waited. The Israelis. Well, a question in the chat, many of you should ask, why didn't they wait? Because, folks, these foreign countries, Israel, whoever, they have to deal with the Democrats and the Republicans. So I'm sure a deal was cut that Biden wanted some credit. They didn't want to alienate the Democrat Party. I think it was a bad call. That's just my opinion. You're allowed to have your own. Here, you doubt me? I always bring the receipts. I'm going to give you the most honest take on this deal you're ever going to get, okay? And I don't care who tells you otherwise. This is the truth, because we're going to back it up. Here is about a 30-second clip of Biden that sums up this entire debacle yesterday of a deal. Here's Biden bragging about the deal, and I want you to pay attention to a few things. First, we're going to focus on 3 takeaways. I wrote all this down so I don't miss anything for you. He says here, Biden, that this deal is, quote, the exact framework he proposed in May. I want you to notice he then says exact again. He says exact twice to make sure you know he's been proposing this since May. Now, why is this a self-own? Cell-phone, not a cell phone. Self-own? Because what Biden's telling you here is since May, they've been ignoring him. And then Trump won, and now all of a sudden you have a deal. He doesn't even realize it because he's freaking stupid. Listen to yourself.
Well, this is the exact framework of the deal I proposed back in May. Exact. And we got the world to endorse it. Secondly, it's America's support for Israel that helped them badly weaken Hamas and its backers and create the conditions for this deal. And thirdly, I knew this deal would have to be implemented by the next team, so I told my team to coordinate closely with the incoming team to make sure we're all speaking with the same voice, because that's what American presidents do.
Notice the narcissistic, sociopathic piece of garbage Joe Biden is. Joe Biden has to make this crap deal about him. That's why I'm telling the Trump team, let them take the credit for the crap portion of it, because the only reason there is a crap portion of it is because Biden was negotiating for the terrorists. That's why.
Well,
the exact framework.
This is the exact framework of the deal I proposed back in May.
Look, she says it again. Play it.
Exact.
He says it twice. He's got to make it about him. It's not about a peace deal. It's not about a peace deal. You understand this? This is about Biden. Biden does not want to leave office without a peace deal, no matter how bad, because he doesn't want to be Jimmy Carter during the Iran deal. I'll talk about that more in a second. Even the left-wing media is acknowledging this is a serious problem. Now, he goes on to say in the second part of this, about 15 seconds in, again, he makes it about him first. The second part of this, that thanks to America's support for Israel, they weaken Hamas. Folks, this is bullshit. Here's a CNN article himself. Biden says he'll stop sending bombs and artillery shells to Israel if it launches an invasion of Rafah, which was successful. Folks, you don't have to support that. It doesn't make you anti-Semitic if you don't support the invasion of Rafah. It doesn't. You're allowed to have an opinion. I'm allowed to have another opinion. That's the great part about this beautiful, flourishing First Amendment constitutional republic. I support the invasion of Rafah. I think we should kill the Hamas demon savages because they want to kill us too. Why? Because I've been overseas in the Middle East many times and listened to briefings about them fucking wanting to kill us. That's why. However, put the CNN headline up again, please, sorry. This is bullshit. Look at the date, May of 2024. Since May, I've been negotiating. Yes, you've been telling Israel to let the Hamas demon savages win. And then he has the balls to say America's support for Israel weaken Hamas. Trump's support for it. It's not America's support for Israel. What are you talking about? I'll tell you what they threatened Israel with. Withholding from them critical military resources to win this fight. That's what they did. It's obvious. Even CNN reported on it. Then there's a third part to this. I told my team to coordinate with the incoming team to speak with one voice. I want you to understand what's going on here. Joe Biden knew nobody was listening to him in Israel. He just said it in the beginning of the thing. I have talked about this exact framework since May. Since May, everybody's given him the double-barrel middle finger because he's a feckless oatmeal brains loser. Donald Trump comes in, says, give us back our hostages or there'll be, quote, hell to pay. Put that up. Put up the Trump True Social. December 2nd, 2024. This is just over a month ago, after the election, obviously. There will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity. How much clearer do you want it to be? All of a sudden, after Donald Trump puts out this True Social post, wow, magically Hamas wants to come to the table. And then notice, I told my team to speak with one voice. It's not one voice. Here's what was going on, folks, and make no mistake. I want you to listen to me clearly. Biden was negotiating for Hamas. The Trump team was negotiating for peace, a fair deal, and the hostages coming back, or there were going to be a lot of Hamas dead bodies. That's what happened. I don't give a shit what anybody else tells you. That's exactly what happened. Even his own State Department had to admit it. They were afraid Biden, no matter how shitty of a deal this was, they said, hey, you want support from Democrats in the future? You're going to do this deal before Trump takes office, no matter how shitty it is. That's what happened, man. And the Trump team, their hands were tied. He's not the president yet until Monday. There's nothing he could do. He can't stop Biden from being president till Monday. This is the real scoop, man. Got a bunch of, there's no situation I'm more strongly sourced on within this operation than this. I'm telling you, this is bullshit. Biden is smoking you up. Even his own State Department rep had to admit that there'd be no deal without Donald Trump. I'll play that for you coming up next. And then the absolutely hapless, the most pathetic member of the Biden administration, Karine Jean-Pierre, who just, again, you want to talk about a self-own? She doesn't even know the State Department spokesperson? Don't doubt me. Coming up next, we've all seen the headlines. Cyber attacks on our grid, drones in the sky, violent attacks on Americans. The ugly truth is no leader, no system will protect you from everything. You're going to see emergencies no matter who's in charge. That's why you need to be prepared. Do not rely on the government in an emergency. They will let you down. That's a guarantee. Food's the first casualty. You want to be waiting on panic lines in the supermarket while your kids are starving? Of course you don't. So prepare today with My Patriot Supply like I do. Get a 4-week emergency food kit. It'll help give you the nutrition you need to stay strong in a crisis. Scratch that. Get one for every member of your family. I have multiples. Please do it. With 2,000 calories a day,